You may not see it right now. You may not feel it right now. But just because you don't see movement doesn't mean God isn't making moves. Behind the curtain of your life, while you're pacing the floor, while you're crying yourself to sleep, while you're wondering if anybody cares, God is working behind the scenes. Somebody listening to me right now feels like the script of your life has gone blank. You feel stuck between chapters. But hear me, just because you can't read the next page doesn't mean the author has stopped writing. God specializes in hidden seasons, hidden preparation, hidden construction. When the stage looks empty, that's when heaven's carpenters are building the set. When the lights are dim, that's when the director is rearranging the scene. Don't mistake silence for absence. Don't confuse delay with denial. What you thought was rejection is actually redirection. What you thought was punishment is really preparation. Think about it. Before Joseph ever sat in the palace, he was locked in a pit and chained in a prison. But the pit was a backstage pass to the palace. The prison was a hidden rehearsal for his promotion. The pain was preparation for power. And I came to tell you today, your pit is not permanent. Your setback is not your finale. Your tears are watering the very ground that God is getting ready to make fruitful. So while you're waiting, worship. While you're hurting, hold on. While you're questioning, keep trusting. Because in the places you cannot see, God is working out what you cannot yet imagine. And when the curtain finally rises and the lights shine on your story, you'll realize that what felt like silence was actually strategy. What felt like abandonment was actually alignment. What felt like delay was actually destiny. Don't give up in the dark. Your breakthrough is already in motion. God is working behind the scenes. When God is silent, it can feel like the hardest season of your life. You pray and the heavens seem closed. You look for signs and there is nothing but stillness. You cry out, Lord, where are you? And the only sound you hear is the echo of your own voice. But silence is not absence. Just because God isn't speaking in the way you expect doesn't mean he isn't moving in ways you can't detect. His silence is often his strategy. His stillness is often his stage setting. Heaven has a way of working in the dark behind the curtain in places you cannot see. The silence of God is not the inactivity of God. When a seed is planted in the ground, you do not hear it cracking open. You do not hear the roots pushing downward or the sprout breaking upward. All of that work is silent. The seed goes through transformation in secret. And by the time you finally see green pushing through the soil, the work has already been happening for weeks, hidden from your view. That's the same way God works in our lives. He plants promises deep inside of us. And while it looks like nothing is happening, he's busy rearranging circumstances, shifting people, closing doors that don't belong, and opening pathways you didn't even know were there. We are impatient people. We want God to answer now, to show up now, to fix it now. But if you knew the fullness of what God is orchestrating, you would understand why the silence is necessary. Sometimes the reason he is quiet is because the construction zone of your life is too noisy. He is building something that requires patience. He is aligning pieces that you don't even know are missing. You only see your present pain, but he sees the bigger picture of your destiny. Look at Joseph's life. He had dreams of greatness, visions of leadership, but God didn't speak to him in every moment of betrayal. When he was thrown into the pit, God didn't explain. When he was sold into slavery, heaven stayed silent. When he was thrown into prison for something he didn't do, there was no voice saying, "Hold on, Joseph, I'm still here." Silence. But while Joseph thought nothing was happening, God was preparing the palace. Every betrayal, every false accusation, every lonely night was a brick laid in the foundation of his future. And when the time was right, in one day Joseph went from prisoner to prime minister. That's what happens when God is working behind the scenes. The silence is not punishment, it's protection. If God told you everything he was doing, the enemy would use it against you, or you might run from the process. So God keeps certain things hidden until the stage is set. You have to trust that the unseen hand of God is moving on your behalf. You have to believe that while you are waiting, heaven is working. So don't confuse God's silence with abandonment. Don't let the quiet make you think he has forgotten you. He has not forgotten. He has engraved you on the palms of his hands. He is closer than the breath in your body, and he is doing more in the silence than you could ever imagine. The question is not whether he is working. The question is whether you will trust him while you cannot hear him. Because the silence of God is not the end of the story. It is only the setup for his glory. Hidden seasons are some of the most misunderstood moments in our journey. We often think that if people don't see us, if opportunities don't call our name, if doors don't swing wide open, then something must be wrong with us. But the truth is, hidden seasons are not punishment, they are preparation. God takes you through a season where you are unseen, uncelebrated, and sometimes even underestimated, because he knows that greatness is not built in the spotlight. Greatness is built in the shadows. When David was chosen to be king, he wasn't even invited to the lineup. His own father didn't see him as fit for the anointing. He was hidden out in the field, tending sheep, doing dirty work, singing to the stars, fighting off lions and bears where no one was watching. But it was in that hidden season that God was shaping the heart of a king. The pasture became his classroom. The wilderness became his training ground. Nobody applauded him. Nobody cheered him on, but God was preparing him for a crown he couldn't even see yet. The field was not a mistake. It was a setup. This is why you cannot despise your hidden seasons. You may feel like nobody sees the effort you are putting in. Nobody values the sacrifices you are making. Nobody recognizes the work you're doing in secret. But God does. Heaven is watching. And what he sees in secret, he will reward openly. The same hands that wiped away your tears in private will lift you in public. The same battles you fought in silence will qualify you for victories in the open. Joseph went through hidden seasons too. Before the palace, there was the pit. Before the position, there was the prison. These were not places of glamour, but they were places of growth. They were not the fulfillment of the dream, but they were the preparation for it. Had Joseph gone straight from the dream to the throne, he would not have been mature enough to handle the weight of leadership. But those hidden years trained him, humbled him, and refined him. His hidden seasons turned his pain into wisdom, his losses into leadership, and his loneliness into trust in God. We live in a world that craves instant visibility. People want to be seen, liked, followed, and celebrated immediately. But the danger of skipping hidden seasons is that public exposure without private preparation will destroy you. If you step into a platform that your character cannot carry, the same crowd that applauded, you will watch you fall. God loves you too much to let you bypass the hidden places. He hides you until you're ready. He covers you until you're steady. He shields you until you can handle the weight of what he's placing in your hands. Don't be in such a hurry to get out of the shadows. The shadows are where roots grow. The shadows are where strength develops. The shadows are where God deals with the pride, the fear, the insecurity, the doubt that would otherwise sabotage your destiny. The shadows are where God whispers lessons that the spotlight is too loud for you to hear. So if you feel overlooked, take heart. If you feel hidden, don't panic. If your phone isn't ringing, if your name isn't trending, if your gift isn't being recognized, relax. It doesn't mean God has abandoned you. It means he is shaping you. The world might not see you now, but when the season shifts, the same God who hid you will reveal you. And when he reveals you, you won't just shine for a moment. You'll last for a lifetime. Delay is one of the hardest things for the human heart to endure. We live in a world of instant gratification, instant food, instant messages, instant results. We want everything now. And when God doesn't answer our prayers immediately, when doors don't open as quickly as we hope, when promises seem to take forever, we start to wonder if he has forgotten us. But delay is not denial. The fact that it hasn't happened yet does not mean it will never happen. God's timing is not our timing, and his ways are higher than ours. Think about Abraham and Sarah. God gave them a promise of a son, but that promise did not come to pass for decades. They grew old, their bodies grew weak, and everything around them seemed to contradict what God had spoken. To the human eye, it looked like the promise had expired. But in the fullness of time, God brought Isaac into the world, showing that no delay can cancel his plan. The promise was not denied. It was delayed so that when it happened, all the glory would belong to God alone. Delay is God's way of making sure that when the blessing arrives, you are mature enough, strong enough, and prepared enough to handle it. Sometimes we think we're ready, but that there are still lessons to learn, still character to develop, still foundations to strengthen. He doesn't withhold the promise to frustrate us. He withholds it to protect us, because a premature blessing can become a heavy burden. Look at the story of Lazarus. When word reached Jesus that his friend was sick, he didn't rush to the house. He delayed. He waited. And in that waiting, Lazarus died. To those who loved him, it seemed cruel. It seemed like denial. But when Jesus finally arrived, he performed a miracle that was greater than anyone had expected. They prayed for healing, but he gave resurrection. Sometimes the delay is God setting you up for something bigger than you asked for. If he had shown up when you wanted him to, you would have settled for ordinary. But because he delayed, he can deliver extraordinary. This is why you must learn to wait with faith. Don't let the waiting room of life turn into a place of bitterness and doubt. The waiting room is where God strengthens your hope, sharpens your vision, and tests your trust. The enemy will whisper, if God really loved you, he would have done it by now. But you've got to stand firm and declare, though it tarry, I will wait for it. Because delay is not denial. Joseph's dream didn't come to pass overnight. Years went by between his vision and his victory. He endured betrayal, slavery, and prison. From the outside, it looked like God had denied the dream. But when the moment came, Joseph saw that the delay was God's design to place him in the right position at the right time to save not only himself, but also his entire family. What you call delay, God calls destiny alignment. So don't give up because it hasn't happened yet. Don't throw away your faith because the calendar doesn't match your expectation. God's delays are divine appointments in disguise. He may not show up when you want him to, but he always shows up on time. And when he does, you'll realize that the waiting was worth it, that the tears were not wasted, and that every moment of delay was really preparation for his perfect will. Pain has a way of making us question everything. When life hurts, when betrayal cuts deep, when sickness weakens the body, when disappointment crushes the heart, it's easy to ask, why me, Lord? What did I do wrong? Where are you in this? But I came to tell you that your pain is not pointless. Your pain has a purpose. God never allows suffering without attaching meaning to it. He doesn't waste tears. He doesn't waste struggles. He doesn't waste brokenness. What you're going through is shaping you for something greater than what you can see right now. When a sculptor works with marble, the chisel strikes are painful to the stone. Pieces are being broken off, rough edges are being chipped away, but the artist has a vision that the marble cannot see. In the same way, God uses the pain of life as his tool to shape us into who we were destined to be. The strike may hurt, the breaking may confuse you, but if you could see the masterpiece he's forming, you would understand that none of it is wasted. Think about Job. He lost everything. His children, his wealth, his health, his peace. People around him thought his suffering was punishment, but what looked like pain without meaning became the very stage for God to reveal his faithfulness and power. In the end, Job received double for all his trouble. His pain produced testimony, endurance, and a greater revelation of who God is. Without the pain, he would never have seen God the way he did. Pain is also a teacher. It teaches compassion, humility, and dependence on God. When Paul cried out 3 times for God to remove the thorn in his flesh, the answer was not deliverance, but grace. God said, my strength is made perfect in weakness. That pain kept Paul humble, kept him reliant on God, and reminded him that the power was not in himself, but in the God who worked through him. Without that pain, Paul might have thought too highly of himself, but with it, he carried a constant reminder that God's grace was enough. You may not see it now, but your pain is producing perseverance. It's teaching you how to endure storms, how to stand when everything is falling, how to pray when nothing makes sense. It's producing empathy in you so that when someone else is suffering, you don't just give them cliches. You can minister from a place of understanding. Your scars will become someone else's survival guide. The very thing that hurt you will one day help somebody else heal. Even Jesus himself was not exempt from pain. He was despised, rejected, mocked, and crucified. The pain of the cross was unbearable. Yet through that suffering came the greatest purpose of all, salvation for the world. If the Savior had to go through pain to accomplish his mission, then don't think your pain is meaningless. God is birthing something in you, through you and for you that could not come any other way. So don't let pain make you bitter. Let it make you better. Don't let it drive you from God. Let it drive you to him. Every tear you've cried is watering the seed of destiny. Every loss you've endured is positioning you for a greater gain. Every night of weeping is setting you up for joy in the morning. You may not understand it now, but one day you'll look back and say, if it had not been for that pain, I wouldn't be who I am today. Because your pain has purpose, and God will use it to write a story of victory out of your struggle. Life has a way of looking messy when you're standing in the middle of it. Pieces don't seem to fit. Moments feel disconnected. And sometimes it looks like chaos more than purpose. But you must remember, you are not the director of this production. You are not the author of this script. God is the director, and he sees the beginning, the middle, and the end all at once. While you're stuck on one scene, he already knows how the story concludes. That's why you've got to learn to trust the director. When you go to a play or a movie, the actors don't know the whole script at once. They only know their lines, their role, their assignment. The director is the one who knows how every character, every prop, every moment comes together. The audience only sees the finished product, but behind the curtain, the director is orchestrating everything. In the same way, you may not understand what's happening in your life right now. You may be questioning why you had to endure certain losses, why certain doors closed, why certain people walked away. But the director is behind the scenes arranging the stage, moving pieces into position, and setting you up for a story that will make sense in time. Look at the story of Esther. To her, it seemed like coincidence that she was chosen as queen. It seemed like misfortune that her people were threatened with destruction. But when the curtain pulled back, she realized that every step had been directed by God for such a time as this. What felt random was really strategy. What looked like risk was really destiny. The director had been orchestrating it all along. Sometimes trusting the director means being willing to act your part even when you don't know the full plan. Abraham had to leave his homeland without knowing his destination. All God gave him was a command, go. No map, no explanation, no timeline. But Abraham trusted the director, and that obedience set him on the path to becoming the father of many nations. If he had waited until he saw the full picture, he would have never taken the first step. Trust requires moving forward even when the script hasn't been revealed. The problem with many of us is that we want to edit the script. We want to control the storyline. We say, God, I like this part, but I don't like that part. I'll take the blessing, but not the burden. I'll take the platform, but not the preparation. But you don't get to edit what the director has written. If you start rewriting your own script, you'll ruin the ending. The beauty of the story is in the hands of the one who sees the whole picture. When you trust the director, you can rest even in confusion. You can worship even in uncertainty. You can obey even when it doesn't make sense, because you know the one guiding your life is too wise to make mistakes and too loving to abandon you. The stage may look dark right now, but the director hasn't left the room. He's adjusting the lights preparing the scene. And when the moment is right, the curtain will rise and everything you went through will make sense. So stop fighting for control. Stop worrying about every detail. Stop trying to understand every scene. Instead, yield to the director. Trust his vision, his timing, and his wisdom. Because when it's all said and done, you'll look back and see that every twist, every turn, every delay, and every heartbreak was a part of a story far greater than you could have imagined. And you'll realize that trusting the director was the best decision you ever made. There are times in life when it feels like nothing is moving, nothing is changing, and nothing is breaking loose. You pray and the heavens seem silent. You work and see no results. You believe, but the evidence looks the same. In those moments, the enemy wants you to think you are stuck forever, that your breakthrough will never come. But don't be fooled by what you see. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it isn't happening. Your breakthrough is already in motion. God is working behind the scenes, aligning people, shifting circumstances, and arranging details that are beyond your reach. Breakthroughs rarely start on the surface. They begin underground, in places you cannot see. Just like water moving beneath the soil, just like roots stretching quietly in the dark, God is moving in ways hidden from your natural eyes. By the time you see the fruit, the process has already been underway for a long time. That's why you can't let the silence trick you into despair. Heaven's calendar is not your calendar, but God's timing is always on time. Think about the children of Israel walking around the walls of Jericho. For 6 days, they marched and saw nothing. Every morning they woke up, walked the same path, and came back with the same result. Nothing moved, nothing fell. But what they didn't realize was that every step was shaking the foundation. Every lap was loosening the stones. Every shout they withheld was building pressure for the final release. On the 7th day, with a shout of faith, the walls fell flat. What looked like wasted effort was actually breakthrough in motion. You might be on lap 1, lap 2, or lap 6 of your own Jericho right now. It looks the same. It feels the same. But don't you dare quit. You might be one more prayer away, one more act of obedience away, one more step of faith away from seeing your walls collapse. Breakthrough doesn't always announce itself early. It shows up suddenly, after consistent faithfulness. When Peter was locked in prison, guarded by soldiers and bound with chains, it looked like the end of the road. But while the church prayed, heaven was already moving. God dispatched an angel in the night, and chains fell off, doors opened, and Peter walked free. His breakthrough was in motion while he was still asleep, while he still thought he was dreaming. That's how God works, suddenly, unexpectedly, but always right on time. You cannot measure God's activity by what your eyes can see. You must measure it by what he has promised. If he said you're coming out, then you are coming out. If he said healing is yours, then healing is already moving toward you. If he said doors will open, then even now those doors are unlocking. Don't wait until you see it to believe it. Believe it while it's still hidden, because your faith is the very thing that accelerates the breakthrough. Breakthrough is not just about what God does for you. It's also about what he does in you while you wait. The pressure builds perseverance. The delay builds dependence. The silence builds sensitivity. By the time the breakthrough manifests, you won't just have the blessing. You'll have the strength and the maturity to sustain it. So don't give up now. Don't throw in the towel. Don't assume the stillness means nothing is happening. Behind the curtain of your life, God is already moving. Your miracle is already on the way. Your walls are already trembling. Your chains are already loosening. And when the fullness of time arrives, you'll step into what you've been praying for and realize that the breakthrough had been in motion all along.